Welcome back to Spill That Nutrition Tea, a safe space for teens like you to explore nutrition and health. Today we are going to discuss Intuitive Eating's Principle 1, Reject the Diet Mentality. If you missed last week's episode where we introduced the Intuitive Eating Framework, click here. Rejecting the diet mentality is a huge first step in eating intuitively. Last episode we talked about diet culture and how it constantly surrounds us. Have you heard diet culture in your conversations at school, with your family or friends? We would love to hear from you. Send us a short clip of your experience and you just might see it in one of our later episodes. Rejecting the diet mentality is an ongoing process, especially when we're constantly surrounded by it. Sometimes it's helpful to hear those conversations and point out where the diet mentality is coming through, and to consider why the person feels the way that they do. Because for many of us, dieting is the only way that we know how to relate to our bodies. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. To best explain the concept of reject the diet mentality, we have to talk about the media. Every time you're in a long line at the grocery store with your parents, what's sitting there right in front of you, waiting for you to look at? Usually it's a variety of magazines with headlines like, "How to lose weight in 30 days," or "Look at these new recipes that are low calorie." Our culture is so obsessed with dieting, aka the diet mentality. The diet industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry with products like skinny teas or pills that will promise you a smaller body like it's magic. But to what end? Do these messages cause more harm than good? And did you know that supplements aren't even regulated in a way that makes sure consumers stay safe? Sure, the supplements list the ingredients on the back of the bottle, but the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, doesn't regulate those products to make sure what those labels are saying are true. Usually the FDA only steps in when consumers say, "Hey, this product is not good, it's harming me, or it's causing ill effects." The FDA only regulates our food products that we eat every day, and they don't regulate the supplements that we choose, especially in the dieting weight loss industry. And I don't say any of this to scare you. But how can dieting be helpful when we do it for several weeks or maybe months even, and then it becomes too taxing and we miss the foods that we love that aren't allowed, so we fall off the bandwagon altogether? And when that happens, who do we blame for the diet not working? Ourselves. We tell ourselves that if we tried just a little bit harder, we would have been successful, when it's the diet itself that lets us down. And you know what else? Once the diet is over, studies have found that individuals gain the weight back without even overeating. Well, what's the point of that then? Rather than just focus on one study, today's segment will uncover the evidence on what dieting does for us and to us. You can decide whether it's positive. Dieting tells your body to fight and hold on to every calorie of food that you eat, because your body believes it's in starvation mode, thus decreasing the amount of calories your body burns and digesting your food more quickly, and you get hungrier even sooner. Dieting reduces the amount of muscle you have, decreases your metabolism, and increases the enzymes that store fat within the body. Dieting causes you to crave high-fat foods because your body thinks it's in starvation, and increases your appetite while decreasing your energy levels. Dieting even lowers your body temperature, so you're always cold. And last but not least, dieting reduces your innate ability to know when you're hungry or full. One of the worst parts about dieting is that it makes us become distrusting of ourselves with food. Dieting makes us become out of tune with what our body needs, because we're so focused on doing what the diet tells us to do that we stop listening to what our body's telling us to do internally.
Oh yeah! For many people, they diet because they're afraid of becoming fat or unhealthy. Ironically, the last segment showed us how unhealthy dieting really is. People are afraid that if they are overweight or obese, that they will develop chronic health diseases like diabetes or heart disease due to their size of their body. Well, correlation doesn't always mean causation. Let me break it down like this with an example. Let's say a study shows that there are increases in ice cream consumption at the same time that there are increases in drowning. Does this mean that if you eat ice cream that you are more likely to drown? No, of course not. Eating ice cream and drowning both go up at the same time, likely because it is hot and it's summertime. This is an example of correlation, not causation. So the belief that being fat means you're unhealthy means that there are other culprits at play, like sedentary lifestyle habits, for example. We will explore the importance of movement and a nutritious diet in later episodes, but first, we have to reject dieting mentality. So sit tight. In their book, Health at Every Size, Lindo Bacon shares that there is lots of evidence which indicates that overweight people can often live at least as long, if not longer, than normal weight people. One study mentioned had a sample size of 1.7 million Norwegian people, showed that the highest life expectancy was found in those who were considered to be overweight, and the lowest life expectancy was in those considered to be underweight. The individuals placed in the ideal weight range category had lower life expectancies than some who were considered obese. And when it comes to chronic health diseases, there is little evidence which supports the hypothesis that weight is the primary cause of diseases such as high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. Weight may be associated with increased risk, but it does not guarantee it. Sorry to say, folks, but the fear of fat as a health concern just isn't true. Are you ready yet to reject the diet mentality?
Rejecting the diet mentality allows for us to welcome our cultural foods rather than sacrificing them in the name of the stereotypical American diet. Growing up, I didn't see the cultural foods that I ate being described as healthy, and it took me a long time, up until my adulthood, to recognize that the food I ate culturally or I eat culturally isn't bad, it's different. So if intuitive eating is for everyone, then my cultural foods matter. In this segment, you can expect to learn about a different country, different foods, and discover a new recipe for you to try at home. Today, I'll be sharing with you about my home country, Nigeria, located in West Africa. The typical proteins found in Nigeria are goat meat, beef, chicken, fish, crayfish, groundnut, wara, agusi, and locust beans. Wara are milk curds, and agusi is a melon seed. The protein most found at meals is chicken or goat meat. The typical starches are cassava, yams, gari, rice, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. Gari is produced from the tubes and roots of cassava. The cassava plant is otherwise known as the yucca. The starch that you'll find most often in meals would be cassava or yams. Typical fruits are mango, pineapple, plantains, bananas, limes, oranges, guava, papaya, and hibiscus. There is a popular drink called zobo that is basically an hibiscus tea. The typical vegetables are okra, onion, tomatoes, peppers, carrots, melons, and ewedu. Ewedu is another name for it is jute leaves, so it's just a leaf that's used oftentimes in stews or in soups that are eaten with what you might have heard of called fufu, or in my region it's called tuwo, which is pounded yam. A typical breakfast in the region that my family is from could have eggs and stew. So it's a tomato-based stew. You can eat it with like tea bread. Nigeria was colonized by the British, so there's still some of a British influence in what we eat for breakfast. There are two main seasons in Nigeria. There's rainy and then there's dry season. A snack kind of varies depending on what's available during the season. So rainy season, you'll find a lot more fruits and vegetables available to snack on. You can eat masa as a snack, and typically when it's eaten as a snack, you'll get it with yaji, which is the spice mixture. But if you were to eat it for lunch or dinner, you would put groundnut stew on top of it, which has got fresh peanuts and chicken and bitter leaf or spinach, whatever's available. And it's all kind of stewed together and you eat it on top of it. Rice and stew is also a common lunch or dinner item. Jollof rice, which is the rice that is soaked in the tomato stew base and served typically with fried plantain and black-eyed peas or whatever beans are available. And sometimes you also can eat gari. So gari, you can mix it with hot water and it kind of makes a sticky, starchy consistency. And you'll eat that with some kind of soup. So there's all these different kinds of soups that you can eat with it. The dish I'll be sharing with you today is called masa. Masa is one of staple items in northern Nigeria. It's a pan-fried rice cake that's traditionally made in an oval shape. It's typically eaten with peanut stew for a meal, or like I mentioned earlier, yaji, which is a ginger-based spice mixture. Masa is usually made 1 to 2 times a week depending on the family. And the family I grew up in, my mom would make it about every other week. It was one of my favorite things to eat, so she would typically make it on like a Sunday.
Did you know that dieters are 8 times more likely to suffer from an eating disorder by the age of 15? You may be asking yourself, what's an eating disorder? Well, the National Eating Disorder Association, or NEDA for short, tells us that eating disorders affect men and women, and that they are complex medical and psychiatric illnesses. Usually there's a disturbance in the eating behaviors which impacts health physically and mentally. This often begins in teenage years and may have very different defining characteristics based on the individual. Athletes are also at a higher risk of developing eating disorders due to the performance demands that their sport expects of them. If you or anyone you know is struggling with an eating disorder, seek support immediately. Eating disorders are serious conditions and have the second highest mortality rate of any mental health disorder. The good news is, those who are struggling with eating disorders, or who are in recovery from one, can take solace in intuitive eating too. A 2-year pilot study from 2017 shows that these principles can be taught in residential eating disorder facilities, with improvements seen in those with a variety of eating disorder diagnoses.
Today's information may be hard to grasp. It might seem like we're not telling the truth, but we encourage you to take a look at the books we're covering so that you can see the evidence for yourself. Rejecting the diet mentality is like asking us to completely rewire our brains, to rewire our beliefs almost. It isn't easy, trust us. We've been on this journey for a while and it takes a lot of work to reject the diet mentality, but it is worth it. You'll see. Takeaway number 1, dieting is harmful. Takeaway number 2, fat doesn't automatically mean unhealthy. Takeaway number 3, reject the diet mentality. Hit the like and subscribe button and stay tuned. Next episode, we'll discuss Principle 2, honor your hunger. We'll see you next time as we pour the tea and spill it.